Good morning, everyone. It's Easter Sunday morning, and we're several weeks now into lockdown. I wanted to just bring you a little reflection on this Easter Sunday. We're several weeks into lockdown, and our lives have changed beyond anything we could have imagined a month or so ago. And we're living in ways we would never dreamed of living. I don't know about you, but I find it really strange how my thinking and my thought patterns have shifted so much that when I receive something at the door, when I receive my shopping, or when I pick up my shopping from Marks and Spencer's, I'm suddenly wondering whose fingerprints does this have on it? Who's touched this? Who stacked the shelf? Who packed the produce? How long ago was it packed? Suddenly, there are a whole new set of implications, and you start to realize just how interconnected our lives are. I never ever thought like that before, but we are always interacting and passing things from one to the other, and the human the human story is a story of community, of connectedness, of being together, of working together, shoulder to shoulder. What before was a friendly kiss on the cheek or the shake of a hand now is a taboo, something to be avoided at all costs. Um, and and how sad that is that our world has suddenly been pushed into a situation where we have to distance ourselves from one another. I don't know about you, but I certainly do not want to settle into this as the long-term normal because being human and flourishing for me is all about community. It's all about being together, working together. It's all about contact and friendship and connection. And I want to have a close conversation. I want to be able to put my arm around somebody's shoulder when they're suffering. And to have all of that taken away plunges our world into something that seems slightly subhuman, slightly unnormal. And in many senses, I think that's how God viewed the world when he stepped into our world in the person of Jesus at Easter. The Bible tells the story of a world where human contact was completely normal. God and man walking together. In fact, in Genesis, at the beginning of the Bible, it talks about how God and Adam and Eve would walk in the garden together before their relationship broke down. And what makes us human is the freedom God's given us to choose. And God set a clear boundary around his relationship with mankind, a boundary that we, in Adam and Eve, we chose to break. And God said in the breaking of that boundary, our relationship with him was irreparably broken. And we were pushed into isolation. We were pushed into a way of life where we, as humans, would struggle alone. And the Bible's really a story about God's intention to restore that broken relationship. People think all kinds of things about religion. They think of all kinds of negative things um, about what it's done to the world. But actually, when you really sit in the Bible and read its story, it's a story of a determined love that God has shown in trying to reveal himself. And Jesus was the perfect representation of God to mankind. And his mission when he came was to reveal the Father again, the Father, the Creator, the God that had walked with Adam and Eve. Jesus was a demonstration of God's intention to put right his relationship with us. And as a family, we have been transformed by that story, transformed by the love of God, transformed by his pursuit of us. And we feel very conscious that God came to reveal himself to us. And we also feel very conscious that he needed to do that. The Bible says that life is about love. And I'm so moved by the definition of love. The Bible says love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. Love is not self-seeking. It never dishonors others. It's not easily angered, and it keeps no record of wrong. It says that love never rejoices in evil, but delights in the truth. That it always protects, that it always hopes, that it always perseveres. And I don't know about you, but when I reflect on that, I very quickly realize how often I'm not living from a place of love. And Jesus said, "Come and follow me," so that you might discover God again. God is love. Follow me in the way that I lived, in the sacrifice I made, in the boundaries that I crossed to connect and to reach out and to restore mankind again to the purposes that I had for him, to live in love. And for me, that is what Easter is about. That Jesus came to show us the way. And also the Bible describes it as Jesus was dealing with the very root of the breakdown of our relationship with the Father. He was taking God's pain, God's anger, God's disappointment that our relationship had broken down upon himself and finding a way of restoring mankind, restoring his people to a good and right footing with God the Creator. And it's an interesting idea that it's fraught with all kinds of opportunities to misunderstand what God's saying in Jesus dying upon the cross. But ultimately, it's the deepest expression of God's determined, never giving up, persevering love to come after us, to rescue us, to restore us, to put right what went wrong. And this Easter, I just want to hold that up to you, that when Jesus died, he dealt with death once and for all. And the resurrection is something that people think maybe is part of a fairy tale faith, but the reality is many have tested its facts. And the truth is a very small group of almost peasants changed the world through testifying to the fact that Jesus was raised from the dead, and created the biggest, most enduring faith on the planet. And something very dramatic must have happened following Jesus' crucifixion for those men and women to have the faith that they did, to die. Peter was crucified upside down because he was unwilling to be crucified the same way Jesus was. That's how sure Peter was that Jesus had been raised from the dead. And Jesus says that anyone that follows me will not only follow me to the cross, follow me to a place of sacrifice, follow me through the pains and the tribulations and the trials of this life, but they will follow me into the resurrection and into the promise of new life. And on this Easter, as we face death, as we face a very contagious, persistent disease, I want to hold out to you today the hope of the resurrection, the hope and the promise that those that believe in Jesus and follow after him will not only die to themselves, die to the selfishness in their hearts, but they will be raised to a new life and the promise of an eternal place in God's house, an eternal place in God's city, an eternal place in a new earth and a new heaven that God has promised he will bring ultimately. And you may ask, do you really believe that, James? And I would say, I really deeply believe it. I have great faith in what awaits me, both in the rest of my life and on the other side of my grave, that there is a resurrection, that there is a hope, and that there is a place of the fullest, most beautiful expression of love, a place of kindness and patience, a place that the Bible testifies will be where the lion lies down with the lamb. It uses very provocative, beautiful language to describe the way God will restore this fallen earth and make it new. And as we're seeing the dark effects on the world of pollution and how we've damaged our environment, within weeks of our activity being significantly restrained, we're seeing the world heal itself very quickly. Well, that's a very small signpost of what God has promised he will do, that he will make all things new and he will heal our world. And today, on Easter Sunday, I hold out to you the promise of life, the promise of hope, and I hold out to you the person of Jesus. Thank you.